I'm Alan Spears with Occupy Democrats, and in some truly stunning breaking news, a group of Republicans have united and vocalized their disdain for Donald Trump, and it would appear that certain Republicans are making moves to try to replace Donald Trump as the presidential candidate for this November's election. Now, this is some truly stunning breaking news and an absolute bombshell to the Trump campaign, but before we dive too deeply into this breaking story, I want to provide a little bit of background and context. Over the past few days, the Trump campaign has absolutely flailed and spiraled as the energy and momentum behind the Harris-Walz campaign has only continued to pick up steam. Overwhelmingly, Americans are rejecting Donald Trump and his messages of bigotry and hatred and fear-mongering, and turning to a message of hope that Harris and Walz are providing. This shift into a more positive outlook has been reflected highly in every major national poll, to which Kamala Harris is leading Donald Trump by at least a few points, if not double digits in some cases. It would seem, though, that some Republicans are taking a note out of the Democrats' playbook and looking for a replacement for their current presidential candidate. Unfortunately, I doubt Trump will willingly step down like President Biden did. Now, this does bring us into our breaking story today, as we have just learned about the turmoil within the Republican Party from the Washington Post's own columnist, Jennifer Rubin. Now, Rubin has written for the Washington Post for a number of different years and covered politics and policy, both foreign and domestic. Now, as an important piece of background information, Rubin was a conservative political commentator, at least throughout most of her career. However, it was during Donald Trump's presidency and was around September of 2020 that she announced that she was no longer a conservative. And about a year later, in 2021, Rubin actually became a very strong supporter of the Biden administration. So all of that is to say that the breaking story we have just received from the Washington Post, written by Rubin, of course, is that this story comes from an insider's perspective. This was written by, at least at one point, a conservative, and is not merely speculation or, let's call it, propaganda from the left. Now, in a companion article from rawstory.com in response to the story by Rubin, we saw, quote, "The Republican Party can no longer ignore that former President Donald Trump, Republican nominee and convicted felon, appears to be losing the thread," a conservative analyst, Rubin, argued Friday. Rubin condemned political coverage of the controversial candidate and demanded a new narrative similar to that faced earlier this summer by President Joe Biden. Biden's eventual acquiescence shocked the nation, and Vice President Kamala Harris's swift ascent energized the party and American voters, appearing by the tens of thousands at her political rallies. Now, it is very important to remember that it's not just one or two conservatives on the fringes that are calling for Trump to step down. There are some pretty big names. Now, according to the actual article written by Rubin herself, this is what caught her eye. Trump seems unable to handle reality. His opponent is beating him by multiple metrics, especially crowd size. In response, he posted several obvious lies on Truth Social, claiming that, quote, nobody was there, and that photos and video of Vice President Kamala Harris's crowds were AI generated. As lawyer and anti-Trump commentator George Conway said on MSNBC, quote, "He has completely lost it. This post is, beyond question, delusional. But it was also inevitable because he realizes he's not just running for the presidency, he's running for his freedom," end quote. Trump's nonsense is also meant to sow seeds of doubt if the election does not go his way. He stated in the same post, quote, "This is the way that Democrats win elections, by cheating." And according to Post colleague Philip Bump, the point isn't to increase Trump's credibility, it's to erode everyone else's. That way, when they accurately report the results in November, Trump can remind his supporters to reject them if necessary. Now, Rubin's article within the Washington Post goes on to address Donald Trump himself, as well as the myriad of concerns both Democrats and Republicans hold. With time, Trump's delusions have gotten wilder, his thinking more scattered. The worse Trump gets, the more untenable the media's unwillingness to level with voters becomes. Will Bunch of the Philadelphia Inquirer wrote, quote, "The false claim by Trump that Harris is generating fake big crowds with AI was a true Captain Keeg moment. Maybe the most bat guano crazy thing I've seen in 40 years of covering presidential elections. Now, obviously, this puts Republicans between a rock and a hard place, which, of course, is great news for us. But it does beg the question which Rubin asks. Where does this leave Republicans? The MAGA party is caught in a gloom and doom loop, forced to run away from the radical Project 2025 plan, defend an increasingly irrational candidate, and make excuses for its unlikable, inept nominee for vice president. One wonders when we will hear and see reports about Republican panic or could Republicans dump Trump. Americans have started to reject Donald Trump and his message. It is abundantly clear from his speech, from his mannerisms, from the way he carries and holds himself that Donald Trump is suffering a massive cognitive decline. While Republicans might be trying to scramble behind the scenes to try to find some sort of replacement to Donald Trump, the fact of the matter is he is the embodiment of the MAGA movement. He is their face, and without him, Republicans at this point have nothing. So, congratulations, Republicans. You have sold your careers and your souls to get in bed with Donald Trump, and now you must lie in it. He was who you decided to tie your cart to, and now you are on the decline along with him.